Hello again, and welcome to another exciting episode of Backstage Showcase. I'm your host, Andrew Bermudez, and today we have all sorts of new aesthetics and visuals and music and whatnot to really enhance this show. It's all part of some new branding that we're doing. I'm not saying that we're really so much reimagining our brand, is that we're kind of expanding upon it. It's still a work in progress. I don't think I can talk much about it right now. As for the whole microphone debacle from last episode, I actually am still working on it. It's still work in progress, but I have made progress. You see, for one thing, I thought I was recording out of one microphone when I was actually recording out of another. It was kind of a weird thing, but I'm still sorting out the kinks. I know a lot more, so things will sound better. And with that, let's get this episode started. In case you're not aware, this year is actually the 10th anniversary of the original performance of Mystery at Shady Acres. But did you know something else? This year is also the 5th anniversary of not only the online re-release of Mystery at Shady Acres, but also the 5th anniversary of the companion point-and-click adventure game that was created for the said re-release, Shady Acres Super Sleuth. This is the particular thing that we will be talking about today. Now, in order to understand where the idea for this game came from, we must go all the way back to 2007 when the original play was first performed. You see, back in the original play, there was this middle intermission part where Chief Della Wickfield would talk to the audience and get their input about who they think did it, why they thought they did it, and then she'd ask the audience members questions about what they saw during the crime, and this nice little thing that breaks the fourth wall, and you get to talk, and where she gets to talk to the audience, and the audience gets to talk to the characters. The problem is that when this film was then made into a film, we went from the play to the film, it didn't really translate well in that intermission. I tried making it interactive in its first version with like this long intermission with a title screen, but it lost its interactivity. Flash forward to 2012. This was a time when I was still going to College of the Canyons, and I had just started to learn how to use a program called Maya. If you're not familiar with it, this program allows you to create 3D objects, create CGI objects, and animate them. And I've learned those general features in the classes there. Well, when I was taking these classes, this was at a time when I first started the From the Vaults program, where I was updating, changing, fixing up older movies and re-releasing them online. And then an idea came to me while I was waiting for class one day. I thought to myself, I've been thinking about re-releasing Mystery at Shady Acres. What if I use CGI to help bring back that interactive intermission that was lost and really add something new that even the original version didn't have? And thus the idea for Shady Acres Super Sleuth was born. Comparatively speaking, the layout of the hotel for this particular game is not that big compared to what you consider the size of the actual hotel to be, especially in the photo that you see at the beginning of the film. There's only two hotel rooms that you can go to in this game, along with a couple other rooms. In total, there's 9 rooms in total that you can visit, including a recreation of the lobby that is seen in the film. But for the most part, most of what you see in this game was invented just for this game, and I did it in such a way in that it wouldn't take long for the audience to navigate it, and it would also serve as a nice intermission without becoming too much of a focus all onto itself. The gameplay itself was inspired mostly by the old Alan Parker Cameron video games by the Adventure Company. These were old video games back from 2002, and Basically, the gameplay is pretty much the same. Point and click, you navigate around different locations, look at items, solve puzzles, and all these various different things. Of course, for Shady Acres Super Sleuth, I had to tweak things slightly in order to fit the new method of gameplay that I was going for. Another thing I wanted to do in Shady Acres Super Sleuth is expand upon a subplot that's not really touched in Mystery at Shady Acres until the very end of the play. I don't want to reveal any spoilers about what it is, but all I can say is that they don't really cover it in the story until the very end. So what I wanted to do with Shady Acres Super Sleuth is I wanted to introduce that plot thread of this other kind of story going on, this other like conspiracy that's going on, and you find notes related to that, in addition to clues that will help you verify who committed the crime. Now let's look at each room specifically. Let's start with the lobby. Now, essentially, the lobby is very much inspired by the lobby that appears in the actual production. I had to take that into consideration because this is literally supposed to be the lobby that you've seen throughout the entire play, so I had to make sure it looked correct, because if it didn't, audiences would be able to easily pick up on that because they've seen so much of it up to this point. So the desk, I put the desk where it was on stage, I put the fireplace where it was, the piano's there, the flowers are there, the sofa's there, and I really try to make it look as close as possible. However, I will say this, I did take some creative liberties. So for example, in the play, there's kind of the no fourth wall there, so the front doors of the lobby are not present on stage, so I was able to take creative liberties with that. And then from there you have the hallway. This is essentially the main hub of the game because this is where you get to all the different rooms. Because you have all these doors, and that's pretty much it. It's just a hallway with a plant in it and a few lights. And then here's the guest lounge. This is an area that I wanted to create as like the starting point. I set it up as like the starting point of when you first enter the hallway. This is like the first door you're supposed to go into because it has all the notes that explain what's going on and things like that. Also, one thing you'll notice here that I want to point out is that here, along with the rest of the game, you'll notice there's pictures hanging on the walls, and all of the pictures are screenshots, illustrations, photographs, things like that are all related to other Mustache Maniacs Film Co. movies. So for example, in this image, you can see a photo from old home movies. It's not a film available online, but it is one of our older films that is made reference to here. And then next up is the dining room. Essentially, it's a big banquet hall with a bunch of tables and chairs. You can walk up to Mr. X's spot. His wine glass is still there, along with a newspaper and his room key. Kind of careless on his part, actually. Okay, let's move on. Let's cover the 2 hotel rooms next. So, when I was thinking about these hotel rooms, I wanted to create sort of a balance. On one side, they needed to both look like the same room in the same hotel. And essentially, because these rooms are designed to look cookie cutter so that everybody kind of has the same experience, if you will. But at the same time, I had to make it look like this certain character was staying in this room. So, for example, Mr. X's room, I had taken into consideration of his introspectiveness. So I gave him a journal, and you can look at the journal, and it gives clues into a certain subplot, that the one I mentioned before. So it really gives you a look into his personality, someone who doesn't really speak until the end of the play. And also, going to the Brighthams room, you have to remember that in the play, they're very compulsive. They take everything around them. So I had to reflect that in that room. So in the room, all the sheets are gone. All the beds are gone. All the curtains are gone. The lamp is gone. Basically, if it's not bolted to the floor, if it's not bolted to the walls, if it was removable and they could put it in one of their suitcases, it's gone. The only thing that's there is a hammer. Also, in reference to this, like they were using it to be able to pull things down in order to take it with them. And it also gave me a nice location to put that hammer so then the player can then pick it up. There's also an employee lounge in this game that you can enter only by using Mr. X's lockpick that you can pick up in his room. So in this room is when things really start to reveal themselves in terms of this subplot that is briefly mentioned in the play, then really expounded on at the end. And this room technically is 2 rooms because there is one room in this game that is completely inaccessible that you cannot enter. It's this broom closet. You can only look into it through this employee lounge. And I really wanted to set things up so that there was this big reveal and that you really understand that there is something going on and you start to understand what this other thing is. And last but not least, we have the kitchen. Because this intermission takes place after Act 1, Scene 3, which is when Basil blows up the kitchen, I needed to reflect that in this game, and that it is representing a certain time after a certain number of events have occurred, and I have to take the events of the play into consideration in the whole game. And the kitchen is very much an emblem of that, because I had taken consideration that Basil blew up the kitchen. So now what would the kitchen look like after he blew it up? So I made everything look charred, everything look textured. I have it like there's a fire going on in there, so you have to get a fire extinguisher and put out the fire, and really throw a few other things in there too, like there's a note in there, but I have to keep in mind, okay, this note is in a fire, at least not completely in a fire, because if it was, then the note would have incinerated. So I had to think about what would the note look like if it was near a fire. It would look a little burned. It would look a little charred. So I had to take that into consideration. And I also use this opportunity to hide other clues that you can find throughout the kitchen. When all was said and done and everything had been exported, this game had a total of 80 assets that needed to be programmed properly so that you could fully navigate through the game. It was a real hassle to put together, I'm going to be honest, but it turned out really well. It really gave a new, more enriched intermission. And just like in the play, the intermission ends with the also important informant tip sheet where you get to fill it out yourself and decide for yourself who you think did it. And with that, that concludes another episode of Backstage Showcase. Thank you for watching once again. Happy 10 years to Mystery at Shady Acres. At least the Thespians version of it will be having a full celebration this May, so come back for that. And as always, check out our website, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and I'll see you next time.